Thank you, Mr. Chairman. U.S. Attorney Shores, in the last 20 years, how many reported homicides have there been in Indian country in the United States of America?
I do not have that information in front of me today, Senator.
Okay. In the last 20 years, how many prosecutions have there been of murders and homicides in Indian country?
As a federal prosecutor who has prosecuted some of those, I would say to you countless, but I do not have that number in front of me today.
Do you think that the Department of Justice could give me that number?
I do not know, Senator, but I certainly would follow up and inquire whether our Bureau of Justice Statistics has that information.
I think it's important to know what your clearance rate is. How many of these cases have actually been investigated and either determined to have a suspect or have some form of prosecution? And I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying that this is the frustration that we have. And if I asked you how many reports of missing women who have been reported either to tribal police or to the Department of Justice, how many of those reports are currently under investigation, I don't think you could give me that number either. And so, but I think if I asked you how many pending investigations are there of drug crimes in this country that the FBI is involved in, I'll bet you they could give me that number. And I bet you they could give me the clearance rate of the drug prosecutions that they've made, globally. I mean, you keep these numbers. I've seen these numbers. I've been the Attorney General of North Dakota, and I'm not picking on you. I'm just trying to make the point that this is invisible. That it doesn't seem to be given the level of gravitas that it has to. We just went through in North Dakota an initiated measure that enacted something called Marcy's Law. It's something that's happening across the country, giving crime victims even greater rights, and we also have had many jurisdictions implement Amber Alerts. We don't have Amber Alert. I did a meeting on Amber Alerts in North Dakota. Many tribes from across the region and across the country came. Not one had an Amber Alert system. Not one. They had no way if someone went missing. In fact, my crime victim advocates basically say we rely on Facebook. Yeah. We rely on Facebook to notify each other on what's happening with these crimes. And the Department of Justice has a unique obligation in my state. Unique because major crimes are prosecuted by the FBI, and I'm not picking on you. I've talked to Director Ray about this. I browbeat Director Comey for a number of years on this issue, but we have got to have, I can pass all the laws and we can get all the sponsorships, but if we don't have a commitment from the Department of Justice and the Department of Interior to make this a high priority, we're not going to be successful. We're not. And so, I'm just pleading for these crime victims and for their families that they should know where these cases are. They should know that someone's still looking for a loved one. They should know that someone's still looking for a perpetrator, and they don't, and there's nowhere to turn. And this is a situation that would be intolerable if it were happening in Bismarck, North Dakota. But yet we just kind of shrug our shoulders. We have kind of a joke on this side. We say what happens in the Indian Affairs Committee stays in the Indian Affairs Committee. We all in this committee understand the challenges and understand these statistics, but we walk outside the door and it seems to evaporate from any kind of consciousness. And so I want to thank you for your hard work. I know how hard it is to prosecute these crimes, and I know how hard it is to work with victims. I want to applaud Senator Hoeven for what he's doing to try and bring more victim services. You'll agree with me, won't you, Attorney General or U.S. Attorney Shores, that if you have good, solid crime victims advocates and people working with crime victims, it's going to increase your rate of prosecution and success in prosecution.
Senator, first, let me say I thank you for your passion on these issues. As a career prosecutor, This is near and dear to my heart as somebody that's worked in and around Indian country. And what you said there at the end, yes, when we have a multidisciplinary team, even a multi-jurisdictional team that involves, for example, in Oklahoma, where we have a patchwork jurisdiction system, it is important that we have social services, that we have law enforcement, that we have state, local, and tribal folks at the table. When we have those conversations, we can provide a more holistic response to a particular need. We can determine whether the best place to proceed is in tribal court or in federal court or in no court at all, and look at other alternative rehabilitative mechanisms. But I do want to say, if you leave here with nothing else today, I want you to know that the prosecutors who work in the Justice Department and who prosecute crimes in Indian country, especially the men and women who serve as tribal liaisons, many of us who have personal ties to Indian country, you will find no more passionate group of career prosecutors to pursue these issues. And I commit to you that as a U.S. Attorney in the Northern District of Oklahoma, that I will strive to have the voice of Indian country heard in the halls of the Department of Justice. And I can tell you that in my relations, in speaking with the leadership of the Justice Department, this is an issue that is important. It is consistent with what Attorney General Sessions has mandated with regard to U.S. attorneys taking a leadership role in reducing violent crime. And that is exactly what that is exactly what Indian country needs, is a focus on the reduction of violent crime. So thank you for the opportunity to respond, and thank you for bringing attention to this issue.
Thank you so much for your comments, and I look forward to working with you and with the Department of Justice as we move forward with this bill.
Thank you.